This morning, looked at your feeder, and it was empty. Not just of seed, of birds. And you couldn't figure out why. The feeder was full, the water was there, you hadn't changed a thing. But they were gone. Here's what nobody tells you. Birds don't leave randomly. They leave because something in your yard told them to. And most of the time, it's something you've been doing for years, thinking it was fine. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe because what you're about to learn will change the way you look at every bird that visits your yard. Today, we're going through 10 of the most common everyday things that are silently driving birds away from your yard, and in some cases, away forever. These aren't obscure mistakes. These are things most backyard birders do without a second thought. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand your yard through a bird's eyes in a way you never have before. Stay until the very end, because number 10 is the one that hits closest to home, and it's the one most people wish someone had told them sooner. Number 1. Your feeder is in the wrong place, and birds know it. This is the mistake almost every new backyard birder makes, and many experienced ones never correct. You put the feeder where you can see it, from the kitchen window, from the porch chair, from the living room. That makes perfect sense for you, but the bird doesn't care about your view. What a bird sees when it approaches your feeder is a threat assessment. Before landing, it scans for 3 things: escape routes, nearby cover, and exposure to predators. According to research from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, birds strongly prefer feeders placed within 10 to 12 feet of dense shrubs or tree cover, close enough to flee into instantly if a hawk appears, but not so close that a cat can hide directly underneath. A feeder placed in the middle of an open lawn, visible from every angle with no cover for 30 feet in any direction, feels like a trap to a bird. They may visit once, they may visit twice out of desperation, but they won't establish your yard as a regular stop. The fix is simple. Move the feeder closer to natural cover, or plant a shrub nearby. You don't need to redesign your garden. You just need to think like the bird, not like someone watching from a window. Number 2, you're using the wrong seed and feeding the wrong visitors. Walk into any grocery store in America, and you'll find bags of wild bird seed on the shelf. Most of them contain a mix that looks generous, colorful, varied, full of different grains. Here's the problem. The majority of that mix is milo, red millet, and oats, and the majority of the birds you actually want, cardinals, chickadees, finches, nuthatches, will not eat those seeds. They'll toss them on the ground, or they'll stop coming altogether. What fills those cheap mixes is filler. It's profitable for the manufacturer and useless for the bird. The Cornell Lab's Project Feeder Watch, which has tracked feeder preferences across millions of data points, consistently shows that black oil sunflower seed is the single most universally accepted seed among North American backyard birds. Cardinals love it, chickadees depend on it, even woodpeckers will come for it.
Safflower seed is the second best investment, especially if you want more cardinals and fewer house sparrows, which tend to avoid it. If you've been using a budget mix and wondering why your yard is quiet, this one change alone can bring birds back within days. Number 3, your feeder is dirty and you don't realize how dangerous that is. This one is uncomfortable to hear, but it matters. A dirty feeder doesn't just look bad, it kills birds. Wet seed that sits in the bottom of a feeder for more than 2 or 3 days begins to develop mold and bacteria, including aspergillus, a fungal pathogen that causes a fatal respiratory disease in birds called aspergillosis. There's no cure for it. Once a bird contracts it, it almost always dies. Beyond mold, feeders that aren't cleaned regularly accumulate droppings from other birds, which spreads diseases like salmonellosis and trichomoniasis through the flock that visits your yard. The National Audubon Society recommends cleaning your feeder at minimum every 2 weeks in dry weather and every 3 to 5 days in warm, humid conditions. A simple solution of 9 parts water to 1 part white vinegar, scrubbed thoroughly and rinsed completely, is all you need. Birds are extraordinarily sensitive to the health status of a feeding site. If multiple birds at your feeder show symptoms, fluffed feathers, lethargy, discharge around the eyes, they are sick, and your feeder is the source. Clean it regularly. It's not optional. Number 4, you have a cat, or your neighbor does. Stay with me here, because this is one most people don't want to hear. Outdoor cats are the single largest human-related cause of bird death in North America.
The American Bird Conservancy estimates that free-ranging domestic cats kill between 1.3 and 4 billion birds in the United States every year. That number is not a typo. Even a well-fed cat, a cat that isn't hunting out of hunger, will stalk, ambush, and kill birds as an instinctive behavior. And it doesn't have to actually make a kill to destroy your yard's reputation. Birds communicate danger, not in the way we do, but through alarm calls, through avoidance behavior, through what researchers call landscape of fear mapping. If a cat regularly patrols your yard, word spreads in the local bird community. Your yard becomes a place birds avoid, even when the cat isn't present. If you have an indoor-outdoor cat, consider keeping it inside during the peak feeding hours of early morning and late afternoon. If your neighbor's cat is the issue, a motion-activated sprinkler placed near your feeder can be a humane deterrent that doesn't harm the cat, but teaches it to find somewhere else to patrol. This isn't about blaming cat owners. It's about understanding that birds have long memories when it comes to danger, and a yard that smells like predator is a yard they won't return to. Number 5. Your water source is wrong or missing entirely. But what comes next surprises most people, because it's not about food at all. In multiple studies on backyard bird habitat, researchers have found that fresh water consistently attracts more species than seed alone. Birds need water for drinking, yes, but more critically for bathing. A bird that can't bathe regularly loses the structural integrity of its feathers, which affects its ability to fly, regulate temperature, and survive cold nights.
The mistake most people make is either not having a water source at all or having one that has stopped being safe. Bird baths with still, stagnant water breed mosquitoes and bacteria within 48 to 72 hours. A bath that isn't changed every 2 to 3 days is worse than no bath at all. The single best upgrade you can make to attract more birds more consistently is to add a small dripper or wiggler to your bird bath, a device that keeps the water moving. Moving water catches light, makes sound, and is visible and audible to birds flying overhead at distances where a static bath would be completely invisible. Cardinals, in particular, respond strongly to the sound of moving water. In yards where a dripper was added to an existing bath, birders consistently report a significant increase in cardinal visits within the first week. Change the water. Add movement. It costs almost nothing and changes everything. Number 6. Your yard is too loud or too busy. If you've made it this far, the next one is going to change how you think about your own behavior in your yard. Birds are not as bold as they look when they're comfortable. That cardinal sitting on your feeder like he owns the place, he's still running a constant risk calculation. The moment something feels unpredictable, a sudden movement, a door slamming, a dog barking repeatedly, that calculation tips toward leaving. Research on human habituation in birds, particularly studies done with urban species, shows that birds can absolutely adapt to a certain baseline level of human activity. They learn your routines. They know when you walk out to get the mail. They know when the kids leave for school. But unpredictable noise and movement are a different category entirely.
Loud music in the yard, power tools, children running suddenly toward the feeder, or even a wind chime placed directly beside the feeding area, all of these register as threat signals. This doesn't mean you have to turn your yard into a silent sanctuary. It means creating a consistent routine around your birds. Go outside at the same time, move quietly near the feeder. Give them 30 minutes of undisturbed time in the morning, which is when they need to feed most urgently, before the day's energy demands set in. Birds that trust your yard's rhythms will come back daily. Birds that can never predict your yard will eventually find one they can. Number 7. You've removed the messiness and made your yard useless. American culture values tidy yards. Clipped grass, raked leaves, trimmed edges, no dead branches, no brush piles. For humans, a perfectly manicured yard is a sign of care and pride. For birds, it's a food desert. Dead leaves on the ground are not debris. They are a layered ecosystem of insects, larvae, seeds, and invertebrates that thrushes, robins, and towhees depend on entirely. A yard where leaves are raked and disposed of within days of falling has effectively removed an entire food source for ground-feeding birds. Dead branches, the ones that look like they should be cut, are prime nesting and foraging sites for woodpeckers, nuthatches, and chickadees.
A brush pile in the corner of your yard, which takes 5 minutes to create and 0 maintenance, provides shelter, nesting material, and insect habitat that can support a resident bird population year-round. The National Wildlife Federation certifies yards as official wildlife habitats based largely on 4 things: food sources, water, cover, and places to raise young.
A perfectly manicured yard typically fails 3 of those 4. You don't have to let your yard go wild, but leaving one corner unmowed, keeping one dead branch, letting the leaves sit under the shrubs, these small acts of strategic untidiness are the difference between a yard birds pass through and a yard they choose to live in.
Especially in January and February, when conditions are harshest and natural food is closest to 0. Number 9. You've been using a pesticide and poisoning the food chain. Most people who use pesticides in their gardens aren't trying to hurt birds. They're trying to get rid of aphids, grubs, mosquitoes, the things that damage plants or make the yard unpleasant. But here's what happens downstream. Neonicotinoid pesticides, the most widely used class of insecticides in residential gardening, don't just kill the target insects. They persist in the soil and in plant tissue for months to years. They contaminate the seeds and berries that birds eat directly, and they eliminate the insect populations that birds, especially during nesting season, depend on to feed their young. A study published in the journal Science found that even sublethal exposure to neonicotinoids caused migratory birds to lose significant body weight and experience disruption of their migratory timing, making them miss breeding windows and reducing their chances of survival. During nesting season, 96% of North American land birds feed insects to their chicks. A yard treated with broad-spectrum insecticide doesn't just have fewer bugs. It becomes a place where parent birds cannot raise a healthy brood. They will find somewhere else to nest, and when they do, they take with them all the generations that would have followed. Switch to targeted, bird-safe treatments where necessary. Better yet, let your birds be your pest control. A yard with a healthy bird population is a yard with balanced insect levels. That's not sentiment, that's ecology. Number 10. You've never thought of yourself as someone they chose.
I saved this one for last because it's not a mistake you make with your hands. It's a mistake you make in your mind. Most people who set up a feeder think of themselves as a supplier. They put out seed, birds come, transaction complete. But that's not what's happening. Birds, particularly the ones who return to the same yard season after season, are making a choice. They have dozens, sometimes hundreds of yards in their territory. They come back to yours. Research on bird cognition, particularly studies on chickadees and corvids, shows that birds not only remember specific locations, they remember specific people. Studies at the University of Washington demonstrated that crows can recognize individual human faces, hold grudges against people who have threatened them, and pass that information to their offspring. Cardinals don't have the same facial recognition capacity as corvids, but what they have is a spatial memory and a risk tolerance that builds over time with consistent positive experience. The cardinal who comes to your feeder every morning, that specific bird, has decided you are safe. Not your yard, you. And if you stop showing up, if you let the feeder run empty for weeks, if the water goes stagnant, if the yard gets too loud and unpredictable, that trust erodes. Not dramatically, not all at once, just quietly, visit by visit, until one day the feeder is full and nobody comes. You didn't just lose a bird, you lost a relationship you didn't know you were building. The birds that visit your yard are not random. They are the ones who looked at everything available to them and chose you. Take care of what they've given you.
If any of these hit home, and I know at least one of them did, tell me in the comments which one surprised you the most. And if you've ever had a moment where you realized a bird had been coming to your yard for longer than you thought, a familiar face at the feeder, a song you recognized, share that too. Those moments matter more than most people realize. I'll see you in the next one.